This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather Ho, there's Jeff Carter Diamond. Welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, October 27th, 2002, one of the most improbable 7-game World Series of all time were made. It was between the San Francisco Giants and the Anaheim Angels. So this matchup was huge. It actually was the first World Series in history that both teams, the Angels and Giants, were the wild card teams, meaning that they did not win their division, but were the best team that did not win the division. The Yankees would finish second in the AL West to the Moneyball Oakland Athletics, and the San Francisco Giants would finish second to the powerful defending World Series champion Arizona Diamondbacks. So anyway, this was a massive year and all that. This was the fourth time that the World Series would be played with both teams from California. 74 with the Dodgers and A's. That was the series in which Oakland completed their three-peat. 1988, Dodgers A's again. That was, of course, the series that saw Kirk Gibson hit the dramatic Game 1 home run in his only World Series at that. And 1989, which was marred by the earthquake with the Giants and the A's. It was a fantastic game and all that. The Giants and Angels had 21 World Series home runs through 7 games combined. That was the highest till 2017 when the Astros and Dodgers would break that mark, and especially Game 2, which was 7. So anyway, this was huge and all of that. This was actually the first World Series to feature opposing managers who were actually world champions as teammates. As Mike Scioscia, the Angels manager, and Dusty Baker, the Giants manager, both played for the Dodgers from 1980 to 1983 and won the World Series in 1981. Which, as of this taping, is the last time the Dodgers... this was the World Series that saw this is the 2024, it's the first Giant-Dodger-Yankee matchup. Moving on. So the Giants franchise was huge. They won a few world titles back in New York, but since they moved to San Francisco, they were known for its futility, frustration, and disappointment. Their last World Series title as a franchise was 1954, when they were still in New York. They went to 2 World Series as the San Francisco Giants. 1962, they lost that famous Game 7 in which Charlie Brown bemoaned in a Peanuts strip. Why did McCovey hit the ball 2 feet higher? Because that would have got past Bobby Richardson and probably scored both runs for the Game 7 dramatic win. And then in 1989, the earthquake, where they didn't win a game. But, I mean, they were dominant. So the Giants were a decent one. This was the 10th season for Dusty Baker as manager of the Giants. His first year was 93 when he famously decided to start Solomon Torres, of all people, in the final game against the Dodgers. And that game was costly as the Braves won the NL West. The Giants needed to make some moves and all of that. They lost Andres Galarraga as a free agent. Sean Estes was traded to the Mets. But they picked up Reggie Sanders from the Diamondbacks and David Bell from the Mariners. The Giants also got Kenny Lofton, one of the most prolific leadoff guys of all time. The Giants had Barry Bonds, JT Snow, Rich Aurilia, Jeff Kent in their thing. So they would finish 2.5 games behind Arizona for the division, but 3.5 up on the Dodgers for the wild card. So they would face the Atlanta Braves, and the Braves were one of the best teams around. However, the Giants won against the Braves in Game 5. Best of 5 first round. So the Braves shockingly lost on home turf. The Giants would face the Cardinals, who took care of the Diamondbacks for the LCS title, and the Giants did it in 5 games. Dusty Baker became only the second black manager in World Series history behind Cito Gaston. Anyway, the Angels had a long history of futility and disappointment like the Giants. They were an expansion team in 1961, the first expansion team in Major League history. Well, alongside the new Washington Senators, after the old Washington Senators with the Minneapolis. Anyway, the Angels never made it to the World Series. They had 3 excruciating trips to the LCS. 79, they lost to the Baltimore Orioles, 3-1. In 1982, they were up 2-0 on the Brewers in the best-of-5 LCS. The only problem was that the Brewers had games 3, 4, 5 at home, and they won all 3. And in 1986, we all know about that famous choke. They were up 3-1 on the Bull Sox, and Donnie Moore was a strike away from giving the Angels a trip to the World Series. And then he gave up the home run to Dave Henderson, and that spiraled the Angels. They couldn't win Game 6 and 7 in Boston. So anyway, this was the 3rd year that Mike Scioscia would become manager of the Angels. They traded Mo Vaughn to the Mets for Kevin Napier. They picked up Garrett Anderson, Darren Erstad, Troy Glaus, and Tim Salmon as pretty good, reliable players too. And a young 20-year-old by the name of Francisco Rodriguez became a good bullpen guy and a setup guy for Troy Percival, the closer. So anyway, the Angels lost the AL West by 4 games, but crushed the wild card. They were easily there, 6 games ahead of Boston and Seattle. So the wild card Angels would take on the #1 overall seed New York Yankees. The Yankees had not missed the World Series since 1997. They won 3000, 98, 99, 2000, but lost in 2001 for a chance at a 4-peat. But somehow, someway, the Angels beat the Yankees in 4 games. The Angels would then face the Minnesota Twins, who also kind of did them a favor by taking out Oakland. And they beat them in 5 games, and let's not forget Adam Kennedy's 3 home runs in Game 5. So, we're off to the World Series. Game 1 started off huge. Giants won 4-3. Game 2 saw one of the most highly anticipated matches of all time, as the Angels somehow scored 7 runs in the first 2 innings. San Fran scored 4. It was back and forth, to and fro, as the Angels would win 11-10 to tie the series. Up and all that. In fact, this was the first time that a team's pitchers did not strike out a batter at all. The Giants did not strike out a guy at all. This was the first time since the 1960 World Series in which I think the Pirates didn't strike out a Yankee. And this was the last time a team has not recorded a strikeout in a World Series game. The funny thing was that the Giants had 4 home runs and the Angels had 2, but yet the Angels won. So off to San Francisco for Game 3. And all of that. So, anyway. The Angels would crush San Fran 10-4. And all that. So, anyway. This was just a humongous game and all that. Game 4 saw the Giants win 4-3. And it was a close game, but they survived. Game 5 saw the Giants crush Anaheim in defiant powder 16-4. Unfortunately, though, this was also the game in which even JT Snow scored off of a Kenny Lofton triple. The only problem was it was for something else, as the Giants' bat boy ran to home plate to collect Lofton's bat, but the play was not completed yet. And fortunately for him, Snow picked up the bat boy and made sure he didn't interfere in all that. Darren could have been seriously injured in a play at home plate. But the bad boy's name was Darren. Darren Baker. That's right. Dusty Baker's 3-year-old son was involved in that little incident. And Darren Baker has played in the major leagues. I think from Washington, if memory serves me right. Because I know he did. This. Yeah, he's a second baseman for the Nationals nowadays. Anyway, that was a humongous win and all that. So now the Giants needed to win. But Game 6 happened. The Giants were up 5-zip through 6.5. All they needed to freaking do was hold on for dear life, win the World Series, and give the Giants something to cheer. That's what was supposed to happen and all that. Dusty Baker pulled Russ Ortiz with 1 out in the 7th inning for Felix Rodriguez, while Ortiz did give up back-to-back hits. All that. During the pitching change, Anaheim's good luck charm, the Rally Monkey, came on the Jumbotron, sending the fans into a frenzy. And yes, that Rally Monkey was the same monkey who was in Friends as Ross's monkey Marcel. So yeah, the Rally Monkey happened. Scott Spezio would foul pitch after pitch and then hit a 3-run home run that cleared the wall in right field by feet. Ortiz could not believe his luck. The Angels would get another play as Darren Erstad hit a home run, back-to-back singles by Salmon and Anderson, and then Bonds misplayed. Well, anyway, Bond misplayed Anderson's hit. So Sean Figgins, who was pinch running for Salmon and Anderson, took second and third. Rob Dunn had to come in to close. He would pitch to Gloss and all that. And he was 7 for 7 in postseason saves. Unfortunately, though, Gloss hit a RBI, 2 RBI double, and the game was over. So anyway, it was actually that comeback from 5-0 down by the Angels was the largest in World Series history for an elimination game. And no other team overcame a 5-run deficit to win a World Series game until 2022 when Game 1 happened. And the Phillies did so to the Astros, despite the fact the Astros did win the World Series. And Game 7 was dramatic. John Lackey versus Leon Hernandez. However, the Giants ran out of time and ran out of runs, as the Angels won 4-1 and did it. The first World Series championship in Angels history, and their only one. John Lackey was the first rookie pitcher to win a Game 7 since 1909. And was it Babe Adams who was the guy for the Pirates? Anyhow, the pitching looked good. Lackey, Donnelly, and Rodriguez pitched 8 innings. And all that. They were all rookies, Lackey, Donnelly, and K-Rod. And then Percival, the closer, the veteran, did it, all that. So anyway, it was just amazing what could happen and all that. In fact, the Angels were the first AL team not from the East to win the World Series since 1991. Of course, we all know the Blue Jays won their titles in 92, 93, and the Yankees won their three-peat, and 96 as well. The Angels were the first wildcard team to win the World Series and all that. Anyway, Dusty Baker would leave the Giants to join the Cubs as manager. And in 2003, the Cubs were 1 win away from the World Series, but choked a 3-1 series lead. Never mind the whole Steve Bartman crap and Game 7 chokery. But they could have won Game 5 in Florida, and but everything was moot. The Giants would score 44 runs, the Angels would score 41. So the Giants outscored the Angels and all that. It was the largest combined run total for both teams in World Series history. Anyhow, so this was actually the last World Series for a while that home field advantage alternated between the National League and American League. Because of that 2002 All-Star Game tie, they decided to give the home field advantage to the World Series to the league that won the All-Star Game. It ended in 2016, and then just 2017, the better regular season team would enjoy home field advantage. The whole Darren Baker incident was huge because that meant that Major League Baseball made a change. All bat boys and bat girls had to be 14 years old, which meant Darren Baker was basically out of a job at 3 years old. And it is the earliest World Series in which nobody from either team has been elected to the Hall of Fame. That might change. Well, of course, Barry Bonds should be, but you know what? He's not. Regardless of that, the Angels' aftermath, they actually were bought out. Walt Disney Company So Disney had the Angels, but they sold the Angels for $180 million to businessman Artie Moreno. The Angels would have one of the most successful eras in franchise history, making 6 World Series appearances in a 8-year span. This was huge. The Angels had won the championship in his first World Series appearance. The last franchise till the Nats did in 2019. The Angels would sparingly use the Rally Monkey after the 2002 World Series and retired it after 2009. Scioscia would stay with the club till 2018, which was amazing. All that. Anyhow, so the Giants were really alright. Dusty Baker left to be manager of the Cubs. Jeff Kent left for Houston and helped Houston do well in the LCS for a few years. Kent would actually have a feud with Barry Bonds and all that. The Giants would win 100 games and make it to the postseason, but lost shockingly to the Marlins, who then won the World Series. The Giants would come back to the World Series in 2010 and take out the Texas Rangers, finally getting the championship. The first Giants championship in San Francisco, and to remove the curse. 2012 and 2014, they both years they went back to the World Series and won it, and all of that. So anyway, yeah. A lot of people hated Dusty Baker for pulling Russ Ortiz with a 5-0 lead and all that. Dusty Baker would actually be the face of managerial pain to try to win a World Series. He finally won the World Series in 2022 and all that. Winning 2,093 regular season games before winning his first championship. Making a new record and all that. So anyway, that's what happened in the 2002 World Series. It was fun, wasn't it? Anyway, I'm Jeff. I'm going to do